Sally Forth Paladins, and welcome back to another episode of Starfleet Command, Orion Pirates Westblood. I'm Admiral Tirak of the Dreadnought HMS Exile, as we continue our campaign in order to find a Monarch-class battleship carrier, really, because that's going to be the more difficult thing. And wow, the Federation just took an area right in the middle of the Klingon territory. The FEF is once again in action, it would appear, but that is so far away from us that it doesn't quite really matter. We're going to do one quick check through the shipyard just to see what's currently available. There is no MNV. All right, let's set out into space and cause a little bit more pain for the Hydrons. Maybe if we capture more planets, we will actually be able to get our hands on the fabled, mystical, and powerful Monarch battleship carrier. That's the goal. Red alert and increase speed just a little bit and set our fusion cannons to overload. We are squaring off against what appears to be a PL-12, so a weak planet. This will only have 8 phaser 3s. These light phaser 3s are really only designed for point defense and deflecting the occasional asteroid, not really for taking on a dreadnought. Protecting the planet, there is a CWF, which according to this is a light cruiser, although I'm going to call it probably a war destroyer, perhaps even a fast war destroyer. No other targets on screen for the enemy, so we have escorting to us today the Blood Urn and the Talon. So currently working with what appears to be... Are you a scout? You can't be. No, you're an MAC-X. So working with the Marak on this one today, and we should hopefully be able to just sweep aside the competition as we are wont to do. We are well equipped to do it, and let's be perfectly honest, the Lyrans are not exactly the most powerful race in this game. That's just facts right there. You cannot really argue with that. Under the current implementation in-game, the Lyrans are just decidedly disappointing when it comes to actual full-on firepower, which is why I think probably our most difficult campaign, aside from maybe the Federation Season 10 one, would probably be any campaign with the Lyrans, and probably the most difficult campaign is going to be Lyrans versus, say, Gorn. I don't say Romulans because the Romulans tend to cloak a lot, and the ESG, curiously, is the perfect counter to any sort of Romulan cloak hopping. It is the perfect weapon because it basically can ignore the fact that you can't see a Romulan ship. So that'll actually be not easy, but easier than a Gorn campaign, because the Gorn are just going to hang around with you and slug it out. Okay, a lot of fire coming in towards us on the Lightning Claw. He has an open shield. I would like to get a little bit closer. Oh, if you're just going to come straight onto me, let's play. 156 damage just cut right through that open shield. His speed is dropping precariously, although surprisingly he hasn't lost a huge number of ship systems. Guys, he's vulnerable. You have missiles. Thank you. Although that mine is possibly going to blow out the missiles. It's going to be interesting to see on the placement. Yep, they did. Once again, the Mercs are their own worst enemy. Phasers should be more than sufficient to finish him off, and his interceptors hopefully will not be able to do anything. Can we steal glory from the Marak? Or did the I thought for a second the Marak launched all of that missile firepower. Haha! Stolen glory. I thought for a second that Marak ship had launched all of his missiles at that single pseudo-frigate. But it was not to be. So we're now going to drift in towards this planet, nuke it with everything we've got. Heavy weapons will cut right nicely through any defenses that they have. And while we could just get right up close and personal with them, use our fusion cannons at their most effective range, I don't think that I quite want to do that, purely because the amount of firepower that he can put back is actually pretty considerable when you're at point-blank range. Outside of that, you're fine. If you stay outside of a range of 3 against a planet, well, just a normal PL number, then they can't hit you because the phaser 3s in this game are limited to a maximum range of 3. If you play vanilla Starfleet Command 2 and Starfleet Command 2 Orion Pirates, that is not the case. The phaser 3s can actually fire out much, much further, but they do almost no damage beyond a range of 3. So because the original designer of Orion Pirates Plus couldn't figure out a way to get the AI to be smart about it, he decided to just limit the range of the phaser 3s entirely. It's something I've actually been considering about doing to the fusion cannons as well, because the AI firing fusion cannons at ridiculous distances is just becoming somewhat painful. Mainly because when you're fighting against them and they just waste all of their heavy firepower, fusion cannons can do an absolute ton of damage, but only if you're right next to the enemy. And if the AI won't abide by that, well, then the AI maybe needs to change. So we're going to get ourselves right to our distance of just beyond 3. I'll stop, this is close enough. All up and select. Only 74 damage. That's not as good as I was hoping, but that's mainly because the fusion cannons are doing almost no damage from this distance. I believe I mentioned it in the last episode. The average damage of a fusion cannon fired against this distance is like 6 point something, isn't it? Actually, I have time to check since we're waiting for systems to cycle. It is a maximum, it does an average damage of 2.5. versus the average damage at a range of 0 is 14.5. So there is a lot of damage that's currently being just put into an area, wasted in the middle of space. Let's see how many Marines you've got left. Hopefully I can grab you. No, you still got 7. Oh, this planetary defense is actually pretty significant. They're holding off against the greatest of long-range bombardments. Something of a shame that the Marak aren't getting closer, but their AI also is very conservative in trying to avoid the incoming damage that they could potentially take by smashing into the planet and dying. But our Marines are away, and they shall hopefully grab the actual location soon. I need to reduce this music volume just a little bit. I had changed a couple of music and sound effect settings when I was recording for the top 8 battleships video, and I haven't gotten them quite where I want them anymore. So reduce the speed back down to normal time because we've captured the planet. That'll be 495 prestige for our troubles and 5 more damage to the Empire defense, which should bring it down to 15 if I'm recalling correctly, which is placing it in a very vulnerable position. Yes, indeed, an Empire defense of 15 right there. Let's pop back here. Hi, shipyard. I'm looking for the grandest and greatest of vessels, a battleship carrier. Do you have one? No, but you're offering me an MNVR. So just the normal MNR. This is just the standard Monarch class battleship. It has 2 additional Hellbore cannons and 8 less fighters. I don't know about you, but I would rather have 8 more fighters than 2 additional Hellbores, because everything else about the ship is the same. It's kind of painful. Another planetary assault. Let's go continue to throw ourselves up against that wall, because so far we've been doing okay. If it suddenly throws a PLPH against us, we're in trouble. Oh, it looks like we're recapturing a Hydrogen planet, although we're on the wrong end of the galaxy for it. PL-10 is not too difficult to take, so same defense as before, and an HCW, which I believe we also ran into last time, being escorted today by the Weak Slayer and the Transwine. That's an interesting name for a battle cruiser, but hey, there it is. This is a somewhat disappointing battle cruiser from what I'm seeing here. He's got 4 disruptors, and then he only tacks on... Is that 5 missile launchers? Wait, no, it is 6. No, it is 5. Wow. This is what undergunned Marak ship. I've never seen a Marak vessel so large with so few. Yeah, he's a beast. Oh, because he's a battleship carrier. Probably took out at least 1 missile launcher in order to actually fit in some more fighters. That's not as bad, but it really is not great. Alright, so we are set with our weapon system settings, although they're not charged yet, but we have yet to arm our defenses properly. So let us do that and set ourselves to maximum ECM and shield reinforcement. There is also a heavy cruiser off here, an NSR. So he's probably a little bit more dangerous. We're going to start vectoring over towards him. Checking the power screen to see how much power we have in the shield. Let's sap most of that so that we can actually get a move on. We don't really need much in the way of defense. I'll drop down the speed by 1. Shouldn't matter all that much. We could dive on top of this light cruiser, nail him with all of our heavy weapons, and then potentially kill him in just 1 pass, and then be free reign on the heavy cruiser. And that might actually be the best plan. Although the battleship carrier should be doing an amazingly good job. Battleship carrier, battle cruiser carrier. This BCV over here. You weren't the Transwine, were you? You were the Transwine, okay. So maybe it is better just to nail the heavy war destroyer. We're going to select our Hellbores. That way, in case he suddenly tries to hit us with his expanding sphere generator, we can shoot our Hellbores at it. The Hellbores will automatically hit that bubble and deal damage to that bubble, which can destroy it. It's very effective. It's stunningly effective. You're putting out a remarkable amount of electronic countermeasure. You have decided just to ignore us, haven't you? He's starting to come down. Okay. So he didn't have the power to power everything, but he had the power to power some. It is dropping below. Okay, so he's down to a defense of 0, taking a little bit of light sporting fire from long range. And he did kick on his ESG. Oh, that's a lot of fire. Shut off, please. There we go. So his ESG is gone. Now we're going to vector in to see if we can't get a good run, because I need a lot of damage from point-blank range. Oh, you had another one. I was not expecting that. Okay, so he no longer has any more of that, though. And the fighters just doing their job. They're terrifying, aren't they? Wait for him to trigger off his 2 ESGs, and then we will launch our fighters into him. Now, the downside of losing your forward shield is, on a planetary assault, you kind of need that forward shield to aim all your weapons at people. Oh, taking a lot of damage there. They are not having a good day. Not at all, but the Ripping Fang definitely senses blood in the water, and he's coming for us until he started to turn away. We're going to start turning in towards him. Oh, he is triggering his ESG. Drop a mine. And it sounds like both of his ESGs went on. So we're just going to wait here. Phasers. Get a little bit of blinking fire in through a down shield. Doesn't cost us anything at this point. and he is maneuvering away from us, taking some damage on the fighters, but now we can get ours in because it sounded like he triggered both of his ESGs. Yeah, he did, according to the last information that we have. So we will launch both sets of fighters. They have their Hellbores. They're fantastically useful at this range and closer. And if they have to get in close, they have Gatling phasers, although he may not survive to getting close. Yeah, he's between a classic rock and a hard place. Cascade failure caused the missiles, but my fighters were the ones to deal the killing blow. Alright, let's target the planet and recall our fighters. We want them back home and back on board so they don't take any additional damage. I want them fully repaired as soon as possible. And now that we're assaulting a planet, we're going to switch over to our maximum electronic countermeasure so that the planet cannot defend itself by making us not know exactly where the planet is. Yes, I know that is somewhat ridiculous, but hey, it makes a certain amount of sense. And all of our systems are charged. Lovely. We're going to sap most of this just so we can run as fast as possible into the planet. That is, of course, the most important thing to do at the moment. Now, it being just a standard PL, again, defenses are only 8 phaser 3s, so as long as we stay at range, we're good. It does definitely reduce the amount of firepower that we can actually dish out, but hey, it'll be fine. Now, if only I could actually keep one of my fighter squadrons and have them bombard the planet too, that would be amazing, but I doubt that's going to be allowable. Mainly because the fighters have an avoidance logic where they will avoid smashing into planets and asteroids, but that can be a little bit too aggressive, so they won't get anywhere near a planet. It's actually pretty painful when you're dealing with plasma allies if they don't have especially large plasma torpedoes, because they will not get close enough to use them. Like a distance of 10 is required to use a plasma F against the planet. They won't do it. They will refuse to get that close because they fear running into the planet, which drastically reduces their firepower. So we're just going to trundle on up here, get ourselves nice and steady and close, and let's all stop so we don't get too close, and open fire. So I think we've dented the planet quite nicely. Not a huge amount, but there was a nice amount of denting going on here. Oh wow, you are way closer than I legitimately have never seen them ever get this close. That's pretty cool. I'm very happy to see that they're actually being aggressive. Continue to fire. How many Marines are left? 8, but we are working on it. There are now 5 Marines left, and I thought for a second that we managed to change the weather patterns on the planet by shooting at it. But I suppose if you put enough energy into a planet's atmosphere, you probably will change the weather. Yeah, these fighters and the rest have been getting in super close. I'm really happy about that, because hopefully that means that they'll do it in the future again as well. Maybe the Morak are the only one that's brave enough to actually try it. Can't believe you only have 5 missile launchers. That is shameful. Alrighty, so another planetary capture, reducing them down to a defense of 10 and another 495 prestige into our wallets as we continue to wait for a Monarch-class battleship carrier to come along, because it will increase our firepower pretty considerably. Pop back over here, say, hi, shipyard, I'm interested in exactly one thing. Can you provide? Nope. That's not it. Neither is that. None of this is what I care about. You disappoint me, planet. We did take 7 damage, so 14 in total, apparently. And we did lose some Marines because we've been bombarding planets with Marines, as well as a single mine that we used and was not particularly useful. Lock that down, head back out. More pressure to be applied in asteroid-based assault. This is a little bit more irritating than a standard planetary assault, because the asteroid base will have no less than 4 phaser 4s, and those are just weapons of destruction and murder. We're heading off towards the left side of the map, just in case we get lost along the way during our battle. So we're not going to be able to get super close to use all of our weapon systems. We're going to have to stay out to a range of about 15-ish to shell them from distance using our Hellbores. And that just kind of takes a while. So we'll increase the speed of time as we drift on through the blackness, looking for the enemy, although that's quite nice. And it is a single heavy cruiser off in the distance. According to the fleet screen, he is an NCAX, so he is a new heavy cruiser, equipped with the newest and greatest weapons technology. We'll probably rely on our fighters a little bit just to murder him. Go maximum electronic countermeasure. And do I want to launch the fighters immediately? I kind of do. I really kind of do. Let's get the fighters deployed. See if we can't defend ourselves just a little bit. Kick on the speed, start sapping that shield budget a little bit so we can actually move somewhat closer to him. His pseudo-frigates have gone wide away from him. That could give us the opening that we require. Slow down the speed of time. And fighters. It's time to select the fighters. Attack. And attack. Hi. I've come to say good morning. And they've already opened fire with their Hellbore cannons, shooting to his back. Yes, that was not a great thing for the fusion cannons, but the important thing was to weaken it so these Hellbores would do the most amount of damage they possibly could. Open fire with Gatlings. Get those involved. If my fighters can come in with a nice little Gatling strafing run, they will deal monstrous amounts of damage. I had come into the aggressive order. Ooh, you took a lot of damage off that one. I'm calling you home. I don't want you to die because you're expensive. So he is definitely maneuvering in order to try and take on my fighters. Hopefully my fighters will be fine, especially if I can... Oh, he's activated the expanding sphere generator. All weapons select. And we did take the damage, but we did also get an additional 59 points of damage in on him. It looks like this fighter group has managed to annihilate all of the other fighters. So he's being quite badass at this moment. Although it would be nice if he would also fire his Gatling phasers into him. But that's not going to happen. So return our fighters to base. Gatling phasers managed to destroy his tractor beam system at this point. Slow down a little bit more since we are trying to actually charge up a couple of heavy weapons. That would be nice to have. Looks like only our phaser... Well, actually no, a Hellbore is going to be ready. Oh wait, no, that's a fusion cannon. Ah, we're close enough for fusion. There we go. Defeated. Alright, like I said, we could get lost, and we're knowing that we need to go onto the left side of the map, pick up the base a little bit, as we must now find the asteroid base somewhere out there in the distance. As we wait for our weapon systems to fully charge, most of our Hellbores are ready, charging up the fusion cannons. Not that we really need them, let's be completely honest, I should probably shut them off, because we're not going to actually run into them. Probe! Hey, there's the target. Distance of 100. Now he's actually within normal sensor range. And as you can see, he's got 4 phaser 4s and 4 phaser 3s. So you can go to offline. Wait, no, I need you. You're important. You can go to offline. There we go. That's the power mix that we need. It gives us 16 points of power in our forward shield. I will use that to travel even faster. And we'll basically just be using our Hellbores for long-range plinking support. We'll also probably use our fighters for the same deal. So let's not change our electronic countermeasures just yet. Not until we start pulling into park. Hellbores can just start shooting. Because at this point, it's just going to take time to finally knock through all of their defenses. And it doesn't appear like we actually save anything on the Hellbores. Start to slow down! Start to slow down lots. Start to slow down even more. I have a lot of power that I had tied up in those fusion cannons. We are actually able to tank all of that. Lovely. Fighters, harass, engage. Engage. Hellbores, engage. All stop. Forward shields are holding. And we're dealing a general amount of damage. Guys, if you wouldn't mind just shooting at him with your Hellbores, that would just be wonderful. Especially because he's shooting me with his phaser 4s, so we have that all taken care of. They have moved into a position to begin engaging. We need to keep a track of who's been firing what, because I believe they only have enough ammo for 2. Oh, come home. Come home right now. It is past your curfew, because I do not want them dead. They're expensive. So he's fired 1. And now he's fired 2. Lovely, so we can call everybody home. And return. That way they'll be able to rearm, repair, refit, and be perfectly ready. Oh, you're just being irritating, aren't you? Let's go to... We've only got 1 point of power. Go 1 there. Actually go 2. Now that he thinks he can actually chase me on this. So we've removed his defenses. First fighter squadron ready to go. Launch them on harass mode. And continue the bombardment. Still have a defense shift of 2 and an attack shift of 0, so that's lovely. Fighters innately, by the way, have a defense shift automatically on them, which is quite cool. It makes them extra dangerous and assaulting. So our second squadron has deployed, and they have begun to open fire once again. And we'll just continue the Hellbore bombardment. So they are definitely not having a great time with this one. That's lovely. I think, though, that you guys have just finished firing. I think both of you have now finished, so return both of you. We want you all back home. Keep it safe, keep it easy. You don't want to end up having to lose your fighters, because your fighters are quite expensive. And, well, then you have to go back home. And you generally don't want to have to do that unless you absolutely have to do that. In the meantime, though, we are stuck shelling out, well, basically a gigantic rock. The asteroid base assault mission. It's not a terrible mission, and in fact, if we really wanted to, we could probably just charge forward and bully our way through it. But I don't want to take the damage. Although once we deal enough damage to start really breaking stuff on that phaser 4 launcher, we can just wade in with impunity. But generally at that point, the starbase will mostly be dead. So much of this So this bar here, and also repeated up here, is it says target hull integrity, but what this is how much BTV, or battle point value, the target has remaining. It's generally a rough indicator of how much health it has left, but it's very much tied into how much combat power you have. And this Phaser 4 is just a tremendous amount of combat firepower for this asteroid starbase. And so even taking off one of them offline has dropped it down to nearly half. So once you knock that mount out even by half, look at how far that jumped. So now he's down to basically half on his Phaser 4s. He's only got 2 of them left. And we're just going to start coming in here because only 2 Phaser 4s. He probably can't cut through us, even if he hit us with a maximum power burst from those weapons. The Phaser 4, like the phasers, does a variable amount of damage depending on range and also depending on a couple of other things. And the maximum damage those Phaser 4s can do at point-blank range is 20. So theoretically, he could actually cut through our shields if he got 2 perfectly powered hits. But the odds of that happening are not particularly good. So we're just going to pull in relatively close, let him keep blasting away, because I don't anticipate he'll have the opportunity to actually accomplish what he's hoping. And the closer we get, the more damage our Hellbores do, and the more accurate they become. So with a defense shift of 2 and an attack shift of 0, oh, they're down to a single 1. And a little bit of light return fire here. We've gone red alert to start charging up the fusion cannons again. We're basically just going to get right on top of them and annihilate them. In fact, open fire. Cut it in half with a fusion beam, as all things should be. So another wonderful victory brought to us by Hydran Dreadnoughts. And fighters. But mostly Hydran Dreadnoughts at this point. Soon we'll have a lot of fighters, but that is not yet. 274 prestige and a neutral tile. Oh, we almost have another important economic base. Let's check the shipyard, see if they've got a Monarch battleship carrier. They have a Monarch battleship, but do not have the battleship carrier version that we so desperately desire. This thing is so incredibly rare, it seems. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I've been Tirak. If you like what you've been seeing, hit that like button and subscribe. If you want to see a notification every time I post one of these videos, press that little bell icon, leave a comment, and I will see you all in the next episode.